Why do you keep losing motivation after just 2 or 3 days? You start strong, you feel excited, you make a plan, and for a moment it feels like this time will be different. But then something shifts. The energy fades, the focus disappears, and suddenly even simple tasks start to feel heavy. And you stop. And maybe you've started believing that you're just not disciplined enough, or maybe you think you're lazy. But here's the truth most people never realize. Losing motivation after a few days is not a weakness. It is a pattern created by your psychology. And once you understand it, you stop blaming yourself and start fixing the real problem. Because the issue is not your effort. The issue is how your mind works. So in this video, we're going to break down the real psychological reasons why motivation disappears so quickly and how you can finally break this cycle. The first reason is that your brain is addicted to novelty. Whenever you start something new, your brain releases dopamine, the chemical that makes you feel excited and motivated. That's why day one feels powerful. You feel focused, energized, and ready to change your life. But cytology shows that this dopamine spike is temporary. As soon as something becomes familiar, the brain reduces that reward. And by day 2 or 3, the same task no longer feels exciting. It feels normal. And your brain interprets normal as boring, so you lose interest. For example, imagine you decide to wake up early. The first day feels refreshing. The second day is manageable. But by the third day, it starts to feel like a burden. Not because it's bad for you, but because your brain is no longer getting that initial reward. And this is where most people quit. But understand this. The loss of excitement is not a sign to stop. It is a natural phase of progress. The people who succeed are not the ones who stay excited. They are the ones who continue after the excitement fades. The second reason is that you rely on motivation instead of identity. In the beginning, motivation feels like everything. You feel inspired and ready to take action. But emotions are unstable. Some days you feel strong and focused, but other days you feel tired and distracted. And when your actions depend on your feelings, your consistency becomes unpredictable. Research indicates that people who act based on identity rather than emotion are more consistent over time. Because instead of asking, "Do I feel like doing this today?" they think, "This is who I am." For example, someone who says, "I am a person who trains daily," will show up even when they don't feel like it, because their actions are not driven by mood, they are driven by identity. So if you keep losing motivation, it's not because you lack discipline, it's because you're depending on a feeling that was never meant to last. The third reason is hidden mental resistance. Sometimes the problem is not the task itself, it's what the task represents. Psychology shows that when something pushes you outside your comfort zone, your brain creates resistance to protect you, even if the goal is good for you. For example, you decide to start studying seriously. On the surface, it seems simple, but subconsciously, it might trigger fear of failure or pressure to succeed, so your brain tries to avoid it. That's why you feel motivated at first, but then after a few days, you suddenly start procrastinating, not because you're lazy, but because your mind is trying to protect you from discomfort. But here's the truth. That resistance is not a sign to stop. It's a sign that you're doing something meaningful. Growth always feels uncomfortable in the beginning. The fourth reason is that you are starting with too much intensity. Most people don't fail because they do too little. They fail because they try to do too much too quickly. You start with high energy and big expectations. You want to change everything at once, but your brain is not used to that level of effort. Research indicates that drastic changes create mental fatigue, and after a few days, your energy drops sharply. So what happens? You feel exhausted, and you stop. And then you think you failed. But the problem was never your consistency, it was the pace. Real progress is not built on extreme bursts of effort. It is built on small actions that you can repeat every day. The slower path is often the stronger path. The fifth reason is the lack of immediate results. Your brain is wired for quick rewards. When you don't see results quickly, your motivation starts to drop. Psychology shows that delayed rewards reduce motivation, especially in the early stages of a habit. For example, if you start going to the gym, you won't see physical changes in 2 days. If you start learning a skill, you won't become good instantly. So your brain starts to question the effort. It asks, "What's the point?" And slowly you stop trying. But here's the reality most people ignore. Real progress is invisible in the beginning. Just because you can't see it yet doesn't mean it's not happening. The people who succeed are the ones who keep going even when there is no visible reward, because they understand that consistency comes before results. So, if you've been losing motivation after just a few days, don't see it as a failure. See it as awareness. Your brain is not broken. It is simply following its natural patterns. And once you understand these patterns, you can stop fighting yourself and start working with your mind. You can expect the drop in excitement. You can act even when you don't feel like it. You can slow down your pace and make your habits sustainable. And you can trust the process even when results are not visible yet. Because real consistency is not about feeling motivated every day. It is about showing up even when you don't feel like it. And that is where real growth begins. Now think about this. Which of these patterns do you see in yourself the most? Because awareness is always the first step to change. And if this helped you understand yourself a little better, make sure to subscribe. Because the more you understand your psychology, the more control you gain over your life.